Procedure.
Yes, people, welcome back.
We're live.
Good live.
We are live. How is everybody doing? We've had a brief chat, but we haven't really talked about much. So let's start. Ladies first, Charlie.
Ladies first, obviously. The biggest here. I'll start. It's a fact. I'm good. Good. Nothing to complain about, really. Just dieting, training.
Yeah.
Nothing really. Nothing exciting, to be honest.
How many weeks left have you got now? Like exactly.
Pardon?
How many weeks left have you got exactly of your cut?
4.5 weeks.
Yeah, so it's about a week with me.
Yeah, so another like 11, 12 pounds to lose, which just get on with it. No point messing around. So yeah, just crack on, get that fat off, be absolutely peeled, and then we can carry on the push back up to get absolutely huge again. But I've already noticed, like in my face, like I look like 12 years old again.
No.
Huh?
You do look a little bit slender.
Mate, yeah, wait till I get a trim tomorrow. Game over, mate.
Yeah,
12-year-old boy.
Welcome to the life, mate.
It gets my fucking ID for monsters still.
Yeah.
Bless him. Bless him.
And I'm the
How are you two? How are you two, boys?
I'm very well, thank you, mate.
Go on, James. You can go first, sir.
In terms of training's been up to a whole level for me recently because I'm going into like a long-term growing phase. So there's going to be a heavy focus on training. So I've started a new kind of periodization block for the next 20 weeks. So food is going to be pushed, training's going to be pushed for that. And the main kind of focus for my training is going to be bringing up my back because I feel like that's a big weak spot for me. So yeah, that's basically the main motive for me.
Yeah.
Solid. Joshy boy.
I feel like I've got quite a lot going on right now, I won't lie.
Really?
Yeah, well I've got obviously work as normal, and then I've also got my auntie and uncle here from Canada. So
really?
my dad's twin, and then I've got my cousins arriving with some of their friends, and they're like, well, I mean you met Kaylin, it's
Yeah.
so yeah, so my cousin Kenya and then some of her friends are coming here as well, so nice to see them because I don't get to speak to them very often, and that's probably my closest part. Actually, I'm closer to both sides of my family, but I've spent a lot of time with the Canadian ones actually. Like I lived there for a year with them without my mum, so for me it's like really does feel like extended family and whatnot. But yeah, so I've got them here, and then my dad's back, and then what else have I got going on? Got a week. I've got 4 weeks left, and then basically like 4 weeks and a few days till I go to Barcelona, and then that's kind of like what I'm doing. I'm not going to go into a full-on growing phase over summer. Though I'm just going to go into a maintenance phase, I would be like a main gaining phase is probably a more appropriate word to use.
Really? Why?
Because I'm doing something every single month, my appetite, I won't be able to maintain a decent appetite. So I'm rather go into a place where I can recover a lot better from going out and stuff. Because like, if I had to go back into eating like 600, 700 carbs, I wouldn't be able to because my appetite wouldn't be able to bounce back that quick. Versus if I go into a gaining phase, I'll still be on good amount of tissue. Like I won't like I'll still be getting a little bit fatter, and I obviously will be putting weight on just at a slower rate. And I'm not doing that permanently. I'm just going to do that over summer. Got festivals going. It's whenever you do a program, diet, or whatever, you need to make sure it's adherable. So I want to make sure I've got something I can adhere to, and not feel like I'm cheating and kind of like regulate it better. So yeah, and then I'll do that, and then after my birthday, so pretty much just after Halloween, I'm going during the Yates dark mode for the rest of my last 6 months. Like I'm gonna be like, I'm not celebrating New Year, not doing Christmas. I'm literally gonna be like fucking on it. Like I'm not even gonna go out to the pub to say hello. I'm literally sacking off like my social life completely.
Mad. It's just mad.
Deep.
It's got to be done though.
6
months. Huge. Get absolutely wham, mate. And then you'll have like a 7-month prep where you're absolutely on it again. So basically, it's gonna be like a whole year, mate, of just
it will be
on it.
It'll be pretty much exactly a whole year. I'll be in fucking dark mode. So, And then
Yeah.
after, fucking go for it, obviously.
And then you can jump on the gear, mate.
And then time to jump on the fucking gear mode.
Go into the dark.
I'm so
Yeah, fucking juice head.
that's very exciting.
That's why, James, we need to get all our pictures in now with Josh. So then when he jumps on, we won't take any more pictures of him.
Yeah, exactly.
Mate, my arms will fucking find their way into all pictures somehow.
You better the golden rule. If anyone's bigger than you, you go on juice.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, I think that concludes enough waffling. Is there anything else that we should be mentioning before we start?
Not really. James, one question. Well, and the listeners, if they're interested in coming, are you going to Electric City?
I need to get my ticket.
Oh, well, I've just got mine today.
Say that I was going to come to you there.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Charlie's anniversary. It has to be
Yeah,
that.
mine and Josh's anniversary, so it sort of has to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it's as good as the first one, it'd be fucking mental. It'll be better, I reckon, even potentially.
It'll be better because surely it's an indoor event, like
Yeah,
what's it
because
called?
the tent lineup's madness. It'll be sick.
Yeah, and I'm not moving from that 10. And 2, I'm making sure I get there on time early enough to see Headaches back-to-back turno.
It will get in there at literally 12.
Yeah, we're getting at 12.
But what date is it?
And then we'll do what we did last time. Well, I say we'll do what we did last time. Also, my sleeping plan has changed.
Hey.
I played chess. Everyone else came back to mine. We had a massive which we so like these boys are seeing my sofa, but like we took the corner of it. We made it to like a massive like 5-man bed, and we just like put like pillows and shit there. Then when they got back, they just passed out on there, so we can all go back to mine after. It's sick.
Well, to be fair, I might just get the train back to mine.
If you want to, yeah, but it's just for vibes, really.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. How the night goes, mate.
Yeah. Anywho, yeah, get your ticket,
Anyway,
and then if
get your ticket, James. Anyone listening, get your ticket as well.
first. Yeah, I know.
Why
So
Serious.
right, so let's move into the meat of this podcast. So we were having a little think in the group chat. We're like, we need to come up with something that's like one relevant for for the time of year, and like what's going on now. 2, it needs to be something that's going to be like not just cookie cutter and just copying what's already been done. We wanted to make something that's like a little bit more original. After James throws and they both had a quick play. And then we were like, okay, so we need something relevant, with something we can talk upon that's like current, but also something that's not like trending too hard and just basically like, put our own spin on it. So, we want to do a quick announcement of the name, the grand reveal.
Go on, Charlie.
Right, leave it all to me. So basically, what we're going to talk about.
Buys.
Huh?
If you weren't too busy throwing around some front double buys.
Mate, I'm just too large, mate. Too large for this podcast. Basically, what we're going to talk about is how to manage like a summer diet and how to maintain it over the summer period. Basically, that is what we're going to talk about today. So, Josh, do you want to lead into the first point?
Yeah, so we thought we'd break this down by starting off with just training, just because training's going to be like that's going to have the least changes in terms of actual programming. Obviously, just because like more or less you get set your program at the start, you do your split, you do your exercise selection, all that kind of good stuff. The only thing that's really going to change is that you'll at the start for the first few weeks you still might be progressing, and then over time you might start having to maintain or regress. If it depends on how like deep you how many calories you drop, and 2 also depends how lean you're planning on getting. Generally, if you should over a 12-week period to get like lean for summer, not shredded for stage. You probably should be able to maintain your list point until like the last couple weeks, 3-4 weeks maybe. You might start to see any kind of like strength regression, but apart from that, the training will be the same.
Yeah, the majority of people, they'll probably just be getting lean for like maybe a festival or a holiday, not kind of like prep lean.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, another thing is when you do your program, it also would be good to set up and be smart and think about, okay, will I be able to do these certain exercises when I'm at like the last bit when you're that little bit leaner? So, for example, do you want to put free weight pressing in when you are like at the start when you're feeling good, but towards the end you might feel like you might suffer some stability loss? Like maybe at the start program in something that's going to be more stable, like that you can carry out throughout the whole way through and not have to like worry about. Because I know me and Chai both said like incline dumbbell pressing or just dumbbell pressing in general has been like starting to get a bit wank.
Yeah,
So
that's
with that,
literally.
potentially you could just program in a machine press or a barbell press instead, or or Smith press.
Yeah, Smith's good to program in instead of like a dumbbell. But what I would say, I mean, if you're like feeling good, I'd carry it on like for as long as possible. But then if it just starts to feel awful, just instead of battling through like just trying to hold on to numbers, switch it out and then just swap onto a machine, and you'll just get so much more out of it for like the last few weeks of like your dieting phase, because there's no point just chasing a number and just moving weight from A to B with no like intention just to hold a number. There's no point.
Agreed.
Sometimes you have to accept, like, drop the ego and just accept it that some movements you're not going to be able to progress, and that is due to your cutting phase. But also, you don't want to go with the mentality into your sessions that, oh, I'm going to be weaker. Because as soon as, if you have that mentality, you're going to be weaker because you're already setting yourself up to failure.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
The goal is to try to progress as much as possible.
Yeah. Right, so I think that covers anything really training related with that. I think training is the stuff that people
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward training. Like not much changes.
I think people want to know is more is the diet, and I think the part that's going to make this podcast particularly different to the other ones, or like when people have talked about this topic, is the ability to maintain like that basically that look and that body composition over a long period of time when you're not in the most ideal circumstances, ingesting alcohol, being dehydrated, potentially definitely being micronutrient deficient. Or we can teach you all the different things you can do to make yourself like more healthy throughout the process as well. And it's only going to do you benefits then when you finish summer and you go back into
Yeah, 100%.
Mm-hmm. Right. So I think what we said was we're gonna give a time frame. We're gonna give like a timeline per se, and then we're gonna kind of like talk through like what changes you could expect to make between, let's just say week 1 and week. Let's say week 10. Do you 10 weeks? 12 weeks.
Yeah,
We'll do 12. We'll break it into like 3 blocks. So week 1 to 4,
Yeah.
4 to 8, 8 to 12.
So this, because obviously like there might be some things relevant to the start of the cut, but not so much the end, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So initially when we start week 1, okay, so you want to think, okay, all being an ideal world, we've built our food up to a level which is good in the off season. We pushed carbs up. We've got lots of, we've got a good amount of food to play with in terms of reducing calories along the line. So I know for me, for example, so I worked up to 550 carb, 200 protein, and I was also doing like 110 grams of fat.
On a training day?
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
I know.
Why do you not just put more carbs in and not less fat?
Because it was just butter. It wasn't affecting my appetite whatsoever.
Oh, right.
It was actually quite easier to eat.
Yeah, fair enough.
So that's kind of like I had a lot of food to play around with there, especially with fat. One of the reasons I'm a bit more of an advocate for pushing fat up if you can during your off season is because it gives you so much calories to take away from without taking away from carbohydrates, which is obviously your main fuel source and what's going to help you perform and obviously retain muscle mass. So initially I made 50 carb drop and like a 20 fat drop as well off training days. So
that was your first drop.
Yeah, so initially I think Chai is the same. Your first drop should be pretty significant because you want to get the ball rolling.
Wait, and you only did 50 carb, 20 fat?
Do you think how much calories 20 fat is?
Oh, yeah, true.
It's like 200 calories.
Yeah, but I'm saying I dropped 1,200 calories.
Yeah, you dropped more than me, but you had way more food to work with than I did.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
Depends how high your food is.
Yeah, I was on 550 and Chai was on like fucking 850.
Yeah, mate, big old boy.
Exactly. So he had more food to cut from versus I didn't.
Yeah.
But I'm saying instead of doing like a 10 or 25 gram carb drop.
Oh, yeah, no, you want to make a substantial drop.
Yeah, you want to make at least a minimum of 50 carb drop. and a potential fat drop as well. And then in terms of basic expenditure, I reckon just going on like 8,000 steps to 10,000 steps, something around that, depending on what like how active you are generally during the day anyway, is a good place to start off with. Agree?
Yeah, I'd also say like in terms of like expenditure, if you've got like an office job, like don't set yourself 20,000 steps because realistically it's not going to be attainable. If like on a day-to-day, like without going for any walks or just generally in life, like through your job and things you do, if you hit around 8k, then 10k would be great. Literally 10, 12k, that'd be spot on.
Yeah, because you have to think it's not just about like, oh, I'm doing 10,000 steps. But what if your job already means you do 10,000 steps? So that means you're not changing your expenditure. You're just doing what you normally do anyway. Like Cam, the podcast, he runs food and stuff. So he'll do like fucking like 15 to 18,000 steps in the shift anyway on an 8-hour shift.
Yeah.
Do you think so? What's us telling him to do any more than that?
No, exactly.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, so having an active job can also be a beneficial thing because it will give you a good level of expenditure already.
Yeah, and it will mean that your food, well, I'm guessing your food will probably already be higher because you're so active. So therefore, you've got more food to play with when it comes to pulling food.
Yeah, so phase 1 is basically like, so week 1 to 4, so you're gonna, week 1, when you start, you're going to make that initial good chunk of calorie drop. Protein, I reckon you should probably keep the same throughout.
Yeah, keep the same.
Yeah, no, don't change your protein levels throughout. There's no point because it's like, want to help you obviously with protein won't change from from block 1 all the way to block 4. But going to make a carb drop, and if you can as well, a fat drop. Expenditure, assess what you do already, but then if you're not really doing any kind of real expenditure, about 8,000 steps is a good place to start. And also teach you get you into that habit of learning how to walk in terms of like, I have 3 or 4 different routes, which I know have a certain amount of steps equivalent. At points in the day, if I've got 10 minutes free, I know I can get this many steps by doing this walk. You'll learn to pick up routes or routes, whatever you want to fucking call it. And you'll know how much that is worth. So you know, okay, I need to do this walk 3 times a day or 2 times a day, or vice versa. So it's good because then when you're getting deeper into that cut, and you're doing cardio, you're training, and you're working, you need to be able to find good time to like do your steps. So if you know like certain lengths of time and certain routes, give you a certain amount of steps, it's also good to know.
Yeah, I mean, I'd also use this like initial like fat loss phase as sort of like a time to reset everything, like in terms of routine. It was something that I did, like obviously towards the end of my off season, I was a bit like slacking in terms of sleep and like going to bed on time, etc. So when I knew the date was, say, Monday, right, I knew from Monday, right, we're going to bed at the same time every single time, and just reset all those like routine variables just to make sure everything's like basically like a fresh restart. And that definitely did help, like in terms of keeping on track with everything.
Yeah, for me it was one of those things. I was like, I went to bed just that little bit earlier and woke up just that little bit earlier, and also as well as what was it? So yeah, the sleep, and then what else? Oh yeah, I also took a deload the week before as well, because realistically, when you go into a 12-week cut, you don't really want to be taking a deload halfway through. So
Right.
you can be fresh when you do start your fat loss phase.
James, anything to add?
No, you basically covered everything. Yes.
So that's basically phase 1. So that's week 1.
That's basically like what you should do out the gate, basically.
Yeah, and then from there you probably wanna. I mean, yeah, from there basically just keep an eye on the scale, because you're when you start off, scale is going to be your biggest like factor you want to be controlling. The look obviously is going to be a contributing factor, but I think when you just get going, scale weight is the first thing you need to be paying attention to. That's where you should be making most of your adjustments based off.
Yeah, and I'd also sorry, James. Go on.
Got one thing to add. You kind of use this time to get used to tracking all this data. So kind of tracking your steps, tracking your scale weight, because all these key things you're going to need to know to use in the next phases, what you're going to do in terms of making changes. And also a good thing to do is take regular progress pictures.
Yeah.
Because it's important to see your visual progress, because that is a thing we're going to assess as well in the next phase.
Yeah. So I
100%.
reckon like the first phase just weekly is fine. Doing more because not enough change is going to be happening anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah. So week one, as we said, so we've already established. So take obviously you take your progress picture, you slice the calories, you put in your basic expenditure, and that's going to be your foundation, obviously, thing to go on. Over the next 3 weeks, you're going to be looking at your scale, making sure that the scale is dropping. So if that means like a 25-gram carb, 50-gram carb drop, I think those like if you're not moving very much or at all, 50-gram carb drop. If your scale weight's still moving at nice level, but you just want to keep things ticking along because you'd rather be ready early than late, then a 25-gram carb drop is probably more sensible.
Yeah.
And I think the first 4 weeks are the easiest. It's just getting into a routine, like
Yeah,
learning.
just keeping on top of everything, and just ticking the boxes.
Yeah. I would say phase 2 is that's when we start to make
Good
okay
decisions.
to really make these decisions will be more impactful. So
Yeah.
I think if it's a 12-week, I would recommend probably about this. Now you want to start upping I think the food, obviously, as we already said, will be slowly coming down. In terms of expenditure, that's going to be one of the main things. That's going to be I think is in phase 2 is what's going to be established. So making sure you're doing equivalent 10,000 steps to your daily routine. So like when I say equivalent, obviously we said if you're an office job, 10,000 normal steps. If you've got an active job already, you're worried. You're set. But then obviously potentially you can start thinking about cardio probably after the first 4 weeks or so, even if it's just like 20 minutes on a rest day.
Yeah, I'd start by programming them on a rest day, just 20 minutes every rest day, and then see how you go from there. And then body weight should start to fall from that. Obviously, if you've been making food adjustments and things like that, and then when you get to a point where food is low, and you've only got like 2 cardio sessions a week, that's when you can like start to implement maybe cardio sessions away from your bigger sessions. So I wouldn't put cardio straight away on like a leg day. I'd put it on like a push day to start with, and then see how that goes. Then put it on like a pull day, and see how that goes. And so forth and so forth. Because ideally, you don't want to be putting cardio on every single day. Like, not ideally. You'd rather just hopefully have enough food to play with that you can just keep pulling back, and then drip feeding some cardio in and steps and things like that.
Yeah, and you want to pick a cardio kind of tool that you're happy doing. That's not going to be like too taxing on the joints. So like some people don't like going for a run on the treadmill because it can be very tough on your ankles and that kind of stuff. So you need to pick something you can actually adhere to, because if it needs to be up, you may be doing it 3 times a week. So you want to be doing something that you can actually stick to.
Yeah. So the most optimal forms of cardio is probably elliptical, just simply because zero impact on the joint. It's more or less full body if you use your arms properly. So I probably for those 2 reasons, elliptical is technically the best. However, it's probably not the most enjoyable to do. I'd say I like suffering on the Stairmaster. I don't mind it as long as you can recover from doing whatever cardio you're doing. As James said, that's the main thing. Because you want to make sure it's adherable all the way through. Because if you switch, because I see some people coming to do cardio in the gym, I'll do like 10 minutes on the Stairmaster. I'll do like 15 minutes on the treadmill, but then I'll finish off with like 5 minutes on the bike. It's like, no, you have to do one thing.
Yeah.
So you get your heart rate to a certain level, you get 70%.
And just keep it there.
It's 70% of your maximum heart rate, and you stick with that machine, because the expenditure levels will drop. Because I'd also say go on something that regulates. I mean, you can't really with the elliptical, but you want to be on something that regulates the consistent speed, so that way you're not slacking at any point.
Yeah.
The bike is because it's not on a set, obviously, speed like the Stairmaster is. It's unless you've got a constant heart rate monitor on you, it's hard to know if you're actually maintaining a certain level of output without. You could start slacking without even knowing. So it's one of those things. It's like there's so many different variables, and at the end of the day, main thing is
just pick one that you enjoy. Basically, don't overcomplicate it. Just pick one that you enjoy, and stick at it for the whole time.
Easier because we just love talking shit about training.
Yeah, basically.
So that kind of, I think that expenditure is where the main change is going to really happen in phase 2. Hopefully, at this point, training will probably still be at a decent level in terms of pumps, if anything, your pumps start to get better towards the end as you get more insulin resistant. Unless you really start running flat. But yeah, so yeah, expenditure is the main thing that really changes because food will still be coming down, but not as fast as we're going to be putting down expenditure. So I think that covers anything really for phase 2.
Yeah, pretty much.
Phase 3 is probably where we're going to see another probably bigger food drop because at this point your body weight is probably going to start to slow down as you get closer towards lower body fat levels and your metabolism starts to change.
Yes.
Anyone get my point? No.
Yeah. Okay. Well, basically, what you want to do is keep an eye on the scale weight. Make sure you take an average. You can download an app called Happy Scale, which creates like a nice little fancy graph, so you can see actually like plotted on the graph how you're doing. So take an average like across the week, and then if the average is not going down after a week, if it's pretty much staying the same, that's
down.
an indicator to drop food.
Yeah, as I say, and not just going down like 0.2
0.1
pounds.
Yeah.
A significant.
You want to be dropping like a pound, at least a pound a week, £1, £2 a week.
Yeah.
I mean, it obviously depends how much you've got to lose. If you've obviously got more, then it needs to be higher, or the cut needs to be longer. But that's very person dependent. But generally, £1 to £2 a week is pretty decent.
Yeah, this is kind of a key sort of phase where you're going to assess in terms of progress. Like, is the weight shifting? And do I need to change your cardio expenditure? Do you need to drop the food aggressively, or do you need to at that time? Like, you just need to review everything.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say phase 3. We're going to see a pretty big food drop, I reckon, at this point, and we're also going to see obviously quite a big cardio expenditure increase, because you're probably coming towards now your last obviously 8 weeks, no, the last 6 weeks even. So at this point, like, it's game time. Like, you can't really afford to miss a meal or miss a cardio session at this point. But by phase 3, you need to be fucking on it. Your routine needs to be fucking absolutely pinpoint. Otherwise, it's going to be really hard to retain muscle mass and a good look, because the more stress you build on your body and the more fatigue you accumulate, you won't look as good realistically. So yeah, he needs to be on point and firing. And yeah, I think that's kind of the main things, isn't it? Oh, and also I would say progress pictures maybe move up to twice a week at this point.
Yeah, it can do. There's no harm in doing some extra progress photos, really, and especially like take advantage like post workout as well. Once you've got a pump, be good to see like where you're sitting like after you've had some food in you, sort of thing. And it'll probably make you feel good about yourself as well.
Yeah,
this is true because skinny.
I'm sure after every workout, when you're in like a cutting phase, you're gonna be looking at your body like majority of the time. Like, check the pump, aren't you? Like, realistically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, I think phase 3, big food drop, big cardio increase. Probably you can start increasing the amount of progress pictures you're taking, making sure the scale is falling by at least what 1 to 2 pounds, we said, more or less.
Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously again, this is all person dependent depending on what your situation is. So yeah, that's kind of phase 3 complete. There's nothing probably at this point as well. This is probably where you're going to be like getting into like, okay, I'm going to be holding on to some. I'm going to start holding on to some numbers here. Your progressions will cease fire quite a lot, especially on your big compounds. And you might find your back off still progress because of your cardiovascular endurance getting better as well.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's anything really to note.
You also might find, again, based on like the recoverability, like within sessions, will go up as well, just like in between sets.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and probably hunger levels as well are probably pretty high in this, like very high.
If you're not hungry by this, like towards the end of phase 3, then there's probably you're probably not doing something right, especially if the weight's not dropping. If you're not hungry and the weight's not dropping, you're like, oh, why am I not getting lean? Yeah. And then come to the penultimate, the final phase 4.
The main point of the podcast is
like,
how to maintain it.
Yeah, phase 5 is going to be maintaining it. We still need to do the last 4 weeks.
Oh, sorry, missed that bit.
because if we did 12 weeks and it's 4 blocks, so it'd be the last
Yeah,
it'd be last 4 weeks now. So this is kind of where we really fine tune things. At this point you should be basically making the decision. Okay, do I want to push another, good chunk, or am I happy where I am at, or do I need to go a little bit further? Like, because depending on how well your cut, if your cut's gone like absolutely to perfection, and you're ready like with the last 4 weeks to go, then you can just get into that maintenance phase even like sooner, which will ultimately be to hold then over a long period of time.
I think it depends how lean you want to get, to be fair, on like person to person. Everyone doesn't always want to get drastically lean rather than someone that does.
Yeah, agree, exactly. So yeah, I would say that's kind of like where you got to make that choice. Okay, how much further am I pushing? How much more do I need to lose? At this point as well, cardio should be at your last 4 weeks. Cardio should basically be at its maximum, wherever it's going to be. And then, like, it's whether it's 4 cardio sessions, 5 cardio sessions, whatever it is that you've chosen. Like that should be like this. That's basically you should hold it at, because if you just keep increasing cardio even towards the very last week, potentially you could be running yourself to the ground hard. Obviously, which means then you won't enjoy yourself.
No, you won't.
You'd be more liable to wanting to cheat on your diet.
Exactly. So, yeah, it's better to pick like a slower approach rather than just think, shit, I'm at the end, I've only lost 3 pounds, now let's just full send it into like 7-day cardio sessions, 20,000 steps, like 1,000 calories. Like, it's just not attainable. So
it's detrimental, basically.
Yeah.
You'll be reversing your physique at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, so as we said, and then also food should also potentially at this point we slowly taper down until you basically get to whatever minimum carbs you'll be having, or minimum calories in general you'll be on. Again, at this point your protein should have been the same the whole way through as well, so you also need to make sure you keep an eye on that as well.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's pretty solid.
Obviously, realistically, if you have one of those 3 as a coach, nothing will go wrong. All these decisions get made for you by people who know what they're doing. Like, I think if you're gonna do it, obviously, like if you're gonna do a cut, like if you can afford a coach, like and want to work with a coach, I would still recommend it, because you don't have. I'm not saying you have to go to work with fucking Callum Pro Coach to fucking to do a 12-week summer cut. Like I
don't think it'll take you on, to be honest, for a 12-week summer cut.
But you know what I mean. Like
I know what you mean. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Find something that can keep you like accountable. Whether it's like, I know some people do also do like the like apps, lifting apps, and then you have to like log your progress on there and like
yeah
for an app and stuff like that. Not quite like what James has got now, but like an auto-regulated one. Yeah. Just try and find something that keeps you accountable is the main thing, because I know a lot of people that go like, oh yeah, I really want to be in shape. And I do have the motivation to do it, but I just really struggle with like staying on top of things and like being told what to do. So like having a coach will fix that problem if you don't have that kind of self-discipline.
Yeah. Cutting as well, it's a massive factor of it is mental side of things, like having the mental capacity of pushing yourself week by week when calories are low. Like you need to be able to do that if you want to progress a successful cutting phase.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, so that kind of leads us now on to phase 5, which is summer. So let's say you've got ready for like something that's in June, July. So how am I going to maintain this look for potentially July, August, basically 2.5 months, we'll say? How do we maintain a look basically for almost as long as you took to actually cut there in the first place? So obviously, let's just say you've come back from your festival, your holiday, whatever. Your physique's gone to shit because you definitely haven't trained or eaten well over the fucking period of time. So I would spend the first week after your event just getting yourself back into a good routine and back into some kind of normality. That's the most important thing, because from there, week 2, you get back on the grind. So yeah, get yourself back into routine. And then in terms of calories, I'd say actually go probably add a little bit of calories to what you were eating before. Just like a 50 carb jump on top of what you were eating in your last week. Just the extra carbs are just going to help you recover. One, importantly, rehydrate, get micronutrients back in you, all that good stuff. Fill up your glycogen again to the basically go again. Anyone else got anything to say on top of that?
Yeah, like Josh said, probably just like a small increase, just to reduce like fatigue and things like that. And generally, like you'll come back from like a week's holiday where you haven't trained, you've just been on the piss all week, and you'll look like a bag of shit, right? Then you'll be in the gym for 2 days. You'll do 2 or 3 sessions. You'll have 2 or 3 days in routine, and all of a sudden your look will change like that. Like it really will. Like if you took a progress photo the day you started after you've come back from holiday, and then like a week later, it'd be drastically different. And that's just like being in routine, fluid retention, just like muscle glycogen stores, all of those sort of things will just come back to life, and you'll look like a little bit better, if not as good as when you went away.
Yeah, and I think then at that point we have to do is to maintain a certain level of like body fat. Is because you've got down to that level of body fat, and you've now successfully rebounded out of your holiday and you're back on routine and whatnot. I'd say for expenditure, have probably maybe like one session less expenditure just to drop off a little bit like fatigue, and then hold your calories slightly above like what you were doing before, because you're already at a certain body fat level. It's not like you get to lose more body fat. So at this point, potentially, like by increasing food a little bit and getting rid of a little bit of cardio, you can successfully hold that body composition in a lot easier manner than it took you to actually get to that body fat level. If that makes sense.
Yeah, in terms of you can basically find the sweet spot in terms of the right amount of cardio, the right amount of food, find the balance where you just maintain less body weight, and then that's basically your sweet spot.
Yeah, and then to also make it more adherable, potentially programming in 1 to 2 cheat days a month, and have those cheat days be the days that you're like the day before you go out, because basically the day you go out, you don't eat much food, you don't hydrate, you do a shit ton of steps anyway. So you might as well program like a cheat day before, knowing the next day you probably potentially aren't going to eat anymore.
Yeah, or a better phrase for it, off-plan meal.
Off-plan meal, yes.
We don't like cheat days.
We don't.
No, because you're not cheating.
James is cheat.
Nobody likes cheating.
So yeah, I think that's the best way. So it sounds easy, and that's because it fucking is. I think people stress about it too much, like, oh, like I need to keep digging deeper after, like if I want to maintain this look, like blah blah blah. No, literally, back a routine, drop a little bit of expenditure, add a little bit of food, and then just stay on top of your variables. And from there, you should be able to hold like that look for a very very long time successfully. And if you're really hungry, like it's going to be a person dependent situation, but hopefully at that point your coach has got a solution for you. But adding those off-plan meals every now and again just to keep you adherable and keep you sane will definitely help. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's only like another 10 weeks anyway, so it's not even that long.
Yeah, I mean, another rule of thumb, like obviously us, like we take it pretty seriously. So for like the average like festival goer, like gym goer, a good like rule you could sort of stick by is one. So the weekends you don't do anything, and obviously in the weekdays you stay on plan 100%, and then that sort of will allow for you to, when you go on these like festivals, like maybe 2 or 3 weekends in like the 10-week time period, that the progress won't be drastically like affected, if that makes sense. Like you can go to obviously at festivals, right? There's not going to be chicken and rice stands with like 300 calorie like salads, is there? There's not. There's going to be burger vans and pizza huts, you know. So when you get to the festivals, like if you've been like consistent throughout all this time, like during the week and like the weekends where you haven't done anything, like when you go to these like festivals, you can have like a burger and a pizza, and it's not going to be like so detrimental, is it?
Yeah, we kind of have to remember. Wait, say that again, Josh.
Huh?
So at that point, you've earned the physique you have. At that point,
exactly,
like,
exactly.
One day won't kill you.
Yeah, 100%.
What were you going to say, James?
Well, I was going to say, like, you've kind of built this physique that you want to show off at the festival. So you want to enjoy yourself, have a drink with your mates, enjoy that burger. Don't restrict yourself, because this is the time where you can be like a bit like more loose with your behaviour and enjoy yourself.
More loose and play more chess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like Father Meadowhall. Yes.
Oh, my
Anywho,
God. Anyway,
I think that
after that,
I think that's a pretty simple, easy to follow explanation from phase 1 to 4, and then the phase 5 being the maintenance phase.
I'd say that's
yeah,
It's not super because we say we don't want to go like super into detail because otherwise it's end up being like a fucking 3-hour podcast, and we would get bored filming it. We just want to give you the simple tools. If you don't want to have a coach, you just kind of want to do it yourself, and you feel like you could do it yourself, we've given you the tools hopefully to put you in the right direction. But obviously, I still would recommend hiring one of us boys because
exactly.
yeah,
if you can make your life easier, like why wouldn't you?
and we've
Exactly.
walk and the talk. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And even if you didn't want to coach, you can always just ask one of us for some advice.
Oh yeah, we all
Always be happy to just help you out.
yeah, all three of us have at some point offered at least a few people like free advice, just for the sake of like helping people.
All the time.
Yeah, I do it loads at the gym when I'm like, I know when like people come like, oh, what's a good exercise for this or what should I do for this, and like I'm always like, I just chat because like at the end of the day, if you treat people with like respect and you help people out just because you want to, good things comes of it. I do believe there is good karma.
Yeah, definitely. And as we're like gym people as well, people realise that and they're always going to ask you questions.
Yeah.
All right, well I think that's a pretty good place to end it. 41 minutes isn't too bad.
Yeah,
It's pretty good.
Decent.
Hopefully that will provide you some value in terms of the summer months.
I feel there's a lot of value.
Shredding. Yeah.
A lot of value.
Right, well I think the next one will have to be a fucking take the piss goofy one then.
Yeah.
Sick.
Don't get too serious.
Yeah, no, it can never do that. It can never be us.
No, can't be us.
Nah,
I'm
definitely
losing
not.
your back.
Yeah, exactly. we're too loose to be the sensible.
Sweet.
Anyway, all right, well,
Right.
share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Leave a rating. Tell your nan about it. And then, yeah. Fucking peace.
Yeah,
See
sweet.
ya, bro.
Catch you in a bit, people.
Cheers.